Are we okay? We got to fucking... We've got to do the fucking shit that we for fucking drug abuse. No! Are you listening?
Sean here, and we're going to talk about two things today. Lorne's language and what it would be like to be on a date with him. First, Lorne in high school and junior high, frequently, whoever girl he was targeted would write on his notebook, and I don't think this is going to come as a shock, would write on his notebook, Lorne Armstrong plus or LA plus. You know the cross you used to do, the little plus sign, and you put the two initials on top and two initials on the bottom? Well, that happened a lot. And I have to say that in 8th and 9th grade, 10th maybe, people paid attention to that. And if they saw your initials and somebody else's initials, they would run and tell the other person. If they didn't think that you guys were quote-unquote dating, they would run and tell the other person, or it would get around that the initials were together. And if you're a girl and you have a crush on a cute boy, and Lorne Armstrong is writing your name all over his folder and his papers and on a desk and under a desk, that's a game killer. It's also embarrassing. There was a girl who liked me, and I liked her. And she came up to me one day and asked me why this other girl had my initials and her initials together all over her notebook and her papers. I never got a chance to be boyfriend-girlfriend with the girl I wanted to be. So I know that these girls, especially a senior year, and you've got this immature, persistent middle school, perennial middle schooler, writing people's initials together, people's names together. He would go around and tell people that he and, I'm just going to use Margaret, known as Marge, were going to be together because he thought she liked him and he liked her. I was with a lot of girls and women, young women, when I was in high school. But I assure you, Lorne was not. This is why I think a lot of his issues with relationships have come about. Again, before we talk about dating, if he has it in his head that you're in a relationship, he doesn't need to go any further. There doesn't need to be any courting, any pursuing. He, in his head, before you even talk, you're already together. So when he talks to you, he's ready to tell you everything. He's also ready to tell you, I believe in you and I love you. There are girls I wish I would have dated in high school. And I'm sure Lorne, he thinks about them a lot. And he thinks about, like Nikki and Paula and all that, he has it in his head forever. They will live rent-free in his head, and he will forever believe that he was wronged and that they were in a relationship, which is why dating for Lorne would be an absolute disaster, a nightmare, something that he should never be allowed to do. Some of these crisscross, as you guys know, and one of the things we talked about was Lorne the stalker. Now that would happen. Let's just skip that part. Lorne doesn't even know what a date is. If he was smart, given his personality, he would ask to have a picnic. But Lorne wouldn't choose a public place. I don't think Lorne would choose the movies. He definitely wouldn't choose a restaurant because he would have to pay. They would be doing something like going to the lake, which is kind of remote. I think the first thing that would happen, that he would ask, is for her to come to his house. You should come hang out at my house. Now, that happened with a lot of people. Your girl comes over, she hangs out at the house, but before that, you didn't bring her home right away. Well, some people did. But with Lorne, he would want her to come over, probably show her his mom like she's some kind of antique, some prized possession. This is my mom. I want you to meet my mom because if my mom likes you, she'll love you. You know how he is with his dramatic... Imagine the girl taking Lorne to her house and her parents meeting him and the alarm bells going off, whoop, 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 whoop. When you're younger, and my friend Howard will tell you, he's been married twice, and both times his dad was like, son, she needs to run one way, you need to run the other way. So if Lorne went over to the house, it'd be over. I dated a sheriff's daughter once. I was horrified. She was so beautiful, though. But I was horrified. I was willing to take that ass beating to go out on a date with her. She... Oh, man. One of the ones that got away, right? Lorne, everybody's the one that got away. So let's say Lorne in his post-military years. Because I don't think he ever went on a date before that. I know some people say, oh, he was passable when he was younger. I could see wrong, again, behavior. Lorne's idea of a relationship post-military. Now, in the military, at least I did, you travel a lot. And you legitimately have short stints with women. I still don't think Lorne did. I don't think he knows what a one-night stand is, because you can't have more than a one-night stand with a person at a party. You can't have more than a one-night stand with a person. I've been to military bars. I don't think Lorne would have gone off base or whatever. I can't remember what the post, whatever they call what he was stationed at. I think it was a base. I can't see Lorne going off base to drink. I can see him going to an enlisted club, the E Club. That's where I see Lorne drinking. Hanging out with other people, drinking, I don't even know if he would try to dance. And that's another thing, especially back in the 90s. Or Lorne would be the late 80s, early 90s, yeah. I think that would be his time frame. Dancing was kind of cool and hip. A lot different than dancing today. This dude danced with a pillow. Slow dancing. I think Lorne would have been the kid in middle school that had little Johnny go up and ask Angie, will you dance with little Johnny? No. She said no. And in Lorne's mental gymnastics head, well, the reason she said no was because I didn't ask her personally. And I probably, today, he thinks if I'd have just asked her myself, she'd have danced with me because I knew she liked me. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm sure you've been on dates that it was pleasant, but there was no connection. There was a German girl, her accent, oh my gosh. This was after I got divorced. And we had a dinner. It was really fun. And after it was over, I wasn't going to go through. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do it. And luckily, because I hate any kind of confrontation or making anybody feel bad, maybe I'm a coward in that way. I don't know. But she got back with her German boyfriend. Her mom pressured her, and because there was Germantown in Louisville, very, culture strict. Her mom pressured her into getting back with him. And it probably worked out for the best. I'm not from that culture, but I'm sure it made everybody happy. But it didn't work out, and I was okay with it. And the only time I ever thought about it was right now, when I was telling you about it. If Lorne had gone out on a date with anybody, let's pretend he met on Yahoo Messenger, and they went out on a date, and they started talking, I wonder how long it would take before he ran out of things to say. Oh, you know how he does that. When he doesn't have anything else to say, he would probably start asking her, what are your parents' names? Where do you live? Where do you work? I told you he was a gatherer, a collector. He wants to know everything about everybody. He would have told her everything immediately, right off the bat. He would have been looking at her picture long before the date. Looking at her picture, we're together. Oh yeah, I love her. I love her so much. And he would probably tell her at the end of that date, I just want you to know, I think I'm falling in love with you. I think most women would run in the opposite direction because if a guy, right as they met you, said, I think I'm falling in love with you. Love at first sight, what that really means is that you felt you had a strong connection. You had a lot of stuff in common. How many love at first sights end up in murder and divorce, messy divorces? A lot. Because you rush into things. Had Lorne found a woman who was desperate and down on her luck and just needed somebody to be there on the other end of the phone, she would have been done. Lorne would have been so in love, as Debbie said. You would have been so in love if she was halfway good looking. Imagine Lorne rolls up to your date He's got a hat on because he wants to keep that bald head hidden. He would have been wearing something to hide his gut, probably a shirt over a t-shirt, something that maybe he could show off his whatever I think he believes that his best attribute are his arms, at least when he got out of prison, because I know he had nothing else to do. He couldn't read, he tried to write, so he worked out push-ups, whatever he did, all of the time. So he'd probably try to show off whatever body part is his best. I think Lorne might even show up with one of the ugliest shirts of all time. I don't think Lorne puts in any effort. I think he does the minimum. I think that's why his trailer stays the way it is. If he had company, he'd do his best to clean it up. He would finally get everything done. And then after the company left, it'd go back to the way it was. I can't see a woman meeting Lorne and him going, hey, let's go back to my place. Oh, I can't. I can't right now. I've got a thing. I've got to dry my hair. You know, I dated a girl, and she ended up moving, and I would give her a call. And I got from her friend, oh, she's drying her hair. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. She's definitely not into this long-distance relationship. It wasn't even that long distance. But looking back, it's not a good thing. I could see a woman telling Lorne, I'm moving, if he wouldn't leave her alone. I could see her changing her number. I can see, God forbid, and we have talked about this, if he got her address or where she lived, if he dropped her off after the date. Now, I know one girl, she used to do this trick. When she would go into her suburb, she'd take them the long way. She'd take them in a circle so that when you got back to the house, you couldn't find your way back to it. She was very clever. And if the woman was smart, that's what she would do so that he wouldn't remember how to get there. Lorne probably, when she left, would have written her address down, written what kind of car there is. He would have a little notepad full of information, and on the top of it, it would say, Lorne plus Angie. I'll use that name again. I'll also say that I don't think Lorne would use his foul language on the first date, although I think some of it would slip. Bullshit, rack of bullshit. I told him. I think the stories he would tell would bring out some of that language. They'd all be heroic stories. He would tell her things that would bore her to tears. But would he use that language? I have a theory where that language came from. I don't think he would learn anything from his siblings. Nothing. He said he looked up to idolized his siblings. I think he was infatuated with his siblings. You know how he is. He gets attached. They're the only ones that paid him any attention, so he's going to latch on. I think his mom is where he learned his language from. We've heard Mama Gwen, curse, and I'm sure that's where Lorne got it. I know whatever she said, I can hear Mama Gwen being that good old boy girl. That's a rack of bullshit. I can hear stuff like that coming out of her mouth. I can also hear the F-bomb. I don't know if she'd ever say, cunt hole, evil little cunt hole. That one probably came from Roy, or, you know what? I don't even think it came from Roy. Roy, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that speaks like that, but Lorne blames it on everybody. He could have learned it from his stepdad, who didn't exist until Lorne got called out on his bullshit. I don't know where that language came from. I never talked like that in high school. I would curse, but I would never, ever use that language. You just don't use it, especially the C word. It's not something one says in civilized company. I don't think he would have learned that in the military. I mean, it's not a common phrase. This is a specific phrase. There was a woman down the street who was just as red as Mama Gwen. This is in a middle or lower middle class suburban neighborhood. People would come out, have a yard sale, court picnic. People were civilized, but this woman would go and egg houses with her son. And she was pretty immature, vindictive, married to a guy who had an amazing job, classy, but she was the way she was. Now, I think I've seen a picture of Mama Gwen, and I can kind of see those words coming out of his mouth, but again, I don't think he learned it from Roy. And I don't think he learned it from anyone else. Who's the only person that he looks up to? The only person, well, I asked Mom what you and Mom said about bankruptcy. My mom, he would have had to have learned some of that from his mom. At least that's my opinion. I think Lorne, if he didn't get his way with these dates, or they had a second date, because the first date was really short, and she didn't get a good feel for how psycho and possessive and controlling he is. I think once he didn't get his way, why are you rushing? I want you to stay on the phone. I'm not ready to give up your voice yet. When he started that and the woman tried to leave, I think that's when we would see Lorne's rage come out. Because he wasn't as tired. He was full of piss and vinegar back then. And I think his rage would come out and she would experience the full range of Lorne's cursing, his abusive language. And that would just make it worse. But he wouldn't understand that. And we would get the foul language he has used right from the fucking beginning. And hopefully that woman would run the other way. Those are my thoughts. I have a researched and written denial video coming out with an actual lavalier mic. I hope you guys enjoy it. I love you. I will see you in the next one.